All right, so listen to this. Today we're doing a deep dive on Computer Dad. And yeah, it's a children's book, B-U-T.
It's a little more than that.
Yeah, way more. Our source material goes like way beyond the book itself. It's got like the background of the author and even some recommendations for similar books.
Really interesting stuff.
So by the time we're done with this, you'll know if Computer Dad is worth reading yourself, Ple-L-E-L-O-S, you'll have a bunch of other books to check out depending on what you're into. Okay, so the story itself, it's about this dad who's having a hard time after his wife leaves.
Oh, wow.
And get this, he's amazing with computers.
Makes sense why they call him Computer Dad then.
Exactly. But when it comes to emotions, not so much.
I think we can all relate to that a little bit, right? Being good at one thing but feeling lost in another.
Totally. And what's even more interesting is we see it all from his kid's point of view. Like, the kid is telling the story.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like we get this pure, innocent look at some pretty heavy stuff. For example, the kid notices these little things like how the curtains in their house are always closed.
What do you think that means?
Well, I think it's pretty powerful imagery, you know? Closed curtains, darkness. Even little kids can get that. It represents sadness.
Yeah, it's like a visual metaphor for how they're feeling after the mom leaves.
Right. You don't need to be a literary genius to understand that. And it makes that turning point in the story even more powerful when Computer Dad meets someone new and she brings back laughter and they finally open those curtains.
Yeah, that's nice, letting the sunshine back in.
Literally. It's a huge shift from like despair to hope. And it makes you think about how much we all need connection, you know?
Hmm.
Especially during tough times, finding someone who makes you laugh can really change everything.
Absolutely. But there's more to Computer Dad than just emotions.
Right. This book tackles some pretty big themes. Well, beyond the storyline, it's about families changing how to deal with difficult emotions and starting fresh. It even touches on different types of families and makes you wonder what normal even means. And here's something I found really interesting. The author Jane Considine, she's been a big name in primary education for over 25 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she knows her stuff. So do you think that background plays a role in how well she gets these big ideas across to kids?
Oh, for sure. Her understanding of how kids learn really shows in the book language. It's simple and hopeful. She doesn't talk down to kids, but she gets those big ideas across in a way that makes you think.
It's true. And speaking of finding things, our source material actually gives us a ton of recommendations for similar books.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, and they're organized by theme, which is super helpful. Like they recommend Ready, Said Rabbit by Marjo Kenricks, and that one's also about a single dad.
Okay.
And then there's Dinosaur's Divorce by Lori Krasny Brown and Mark Brown, which obviously deals with divorce and all the complicated relationships that come with it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we can't forget The Storm Whale by Benji Davies. It's about a single dad and his kid who find a whale and take care of it.
Oh, wow.
It's got to be heartwarming, right?
Right.
It's like we have all these books to choose from, so what kind of story are you drawn to? Single dads? Divorce? Maybe something completely different. Think about that as we learn more about Jane Considine herself.
Jane Considine's career, it really shows how much someone can do when they're passionate about education. It's more than just writing children's books.
Yeah, we talked about that a bit, but I think we should dig a little deeper. Our source material really makes her sound dedicated to teaching, not just telling stories.
Exactly. And she spent over 25 years in primary education focusing on improving literacy skills in young kids. She isn't just writing stories, she's developing ways to help teachers be more effective. It's like she's coming at education from every angle.
And it's obviously working. She's known for these books like The Right Stuff and Hooked on Books, and they're really popular with teachers, so it's no surprise that Computer Dad is both entertaining and, kind of educational at the same time. What do you think about that?
It makes you wonder if she's sneaking in some learning goals. Maybe kids are picking up on things about emotions or family dynamics without even realizing it.
Interesting. It's like she's hidden some serious life lessons in there without being all preachy. That's impressive.
It really is, and that's what makes her work so good. It feels like a story, not a lesson. But underneath it all, she really understands child development and how powerful stories can be. It's pretty brilliant.
Totally brilliant. Now, our source material doesn't say exactly what inspired Considine to write Computer Dad, but knowing how much she's worked with kids and teachers, I have a theory. She's probably seen tons of families going through different challenges. Maybe she saw a need for a story that talks about those things in a way that kids can understand and feel good about.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, Computer Dad is all about separation and change and creating new families. Those are things that happen a lot, but they can be really hard for kids.
Exactly. It's like she's using her knowledge to create this safe space for kids to explore those feelings through a story. What do you think?
I totally agree. And it's not just about exploring feelings, it's about finding hope, too. The book shows that even when families change, there can still be love and happiness.
That's such a great message, especially for kids who might be going through something similar. It reminds them they're not alone, and it's okay to feel all sorts of things when things are changing.
And it reminds us that everyone can grow and heal, even when things are hard. That's something everyone can take away from the story.
We've covered a lot: the plot, the themes, the author's background, and even a list of similar books. But there's one thing our source material doesn't tell us. Why did mom leave in the first place? It feels almost intentional, like they left that part out.
Hmm, that is interesting. The book leaves it open so you can decide for yourself. It adds another layer to the story. It's like a blank space, and you can fill it in with your own ideas and experiences.
I like that, a blank space. It makes us think about relationships and all the reasons why families change. There's no one answer, and that makes the story more interesting and personal.
Yeah, it's like she wants us to have our own conversations about this. It's a real issue, and there's no easy answer.
Right, and it makes you think more about the story,
Yeah.
Instead of just giving us all the answers, she's making us think critically and question what we think about families and relationships.
And that's so important, isn't it? Being able to question things and see different perspectives, it's more important than ever these days.
Totally agree. It's crucial with all the information coming at us. We need to be able to really look at it, understand, and come to our own conclusions.
Well said. So think about this. We went from talking about the story and themes of Computer Dad to learning about the author and even getting a whole list of similar books to read. That's a lot for one deep dive, right?
Hmm.
It shows you what happens when you dig a little deeper, you know? Even a simple children's book can make you think and see things differently.
And that's what we're all about here on the deep dive. So while you're trying to figure out why mom left and maybe adding some new books to your reading list, I want to leave you with this.
If this got you interested in children's books, don't stop here. There are so many stories out there, each one with something unique to say and connect with readers of all ages. Happy reading.